Hello, my name's Tim Perkis. I'm the head of geography, and I'm just going to talk you through geography at GCSE for OCR Spec B. Um, Enjoy. So GCSE geography is super exciting subject. Congratulations if you're thinking about choosing it, and I hope you do. To give you a quick breakdown of what the exam would look like, if you do take this subject, you've got three exam papers that you're going to be facing at the end of year 11. They're all fairly similar in length, all about 1 hour 15 or 1 hour 30 for the longest for Unit 3. They are a physical paper, they're a human paper, and they're the one that's called geographical exploration, which essentially looks at a range of topics. There'll be at least two, usually combined, and it's source based, with us not having any idea until the exam day itself about what the topics the exam board will choose for that third paper. I'm going to talk you through what each unit involves, but you just need to know that you've got a mixture of exam questions. Some of them will be short answer, knowledge-based questions. Some will be source-based, using maps or graphs. And then there are a couple for each unit of extended questions, with the longest being in paper 3 up to 12 marks, most of them averaging somewhere between 6 to 8. For parents who are unsure, controlled assessment is just a new term for coursework, and geography has no coursework or controlled assessment at GCSE anymore, which is, I think, a good thing. So 3 exam papers in total. So paper 1 is natural world. This is the physical paper, and in geography that means that we're going to be looking at 4 topics: global hazards, climate change, distinctive landscapes, and sustaining ecosystems. So the image that I've put up on here is just showing you, these are the flood hazards, flood alerts that this country had during the winter time from 2015 into the start of 2016. And the questions that we would be looking at is, what kind of hazards do we have to face? Can we handle them? Why do they happen? And how's it best to respond? We cover within the global hazards unit flooding, we look at drought, we look at earthquakes and volcanoes, and essentially start pulling apart how our world works. In the climate change unit, we cover proof that climate change is really occurring, and then what the effects will be, the global effects, and also within our own country. We then look at landscapes, so we focus in on rivers and coasts and look at how we make a coastline, why they're changing, what waves are capable of doing, and how they're formed. And then we zoom in on 2 case studies looking at the River Tees and then at the Dorset coastline. And the final unit for paper 1 is ecosystems. So we compare the rainforest with Arctic tundra and just look at how nature works within each of those environments, but then also how human activity has been working within an ecosystem, how that might change it or manage it in the future. It's a really exciting paper. We cover a range of stuff, and hopefully some of these are topics that you'll be seeing in the news as the year goes around. So paper 2 or unit 2 is people and society. So this is the human paper. Again, it's an hour and 15 minutes in total, 4 topics, and they are urban futures, which is about how our cities are changing, where we find the world's biggest cities, what makes some of the cities around the world more influential. So we're going to look at world cities and mega cities, which cities are the fastest growth. So this things like we're going to look at a city perhaps like Lagos, Nigeria, and go, it's the fastest growing city in the world. That's 80 people per hour, 2,000 people a day. That means that you've got a city the size of something, approaching sort of like Leicester, growing on the size of Lagos every year. What's the effect of that? How do you manage it? How do you deal with it? We will look at dynamic development, which is asking questions of wealth and inequality, and looking at where the richest and where the poorest countries of the world are, why there are wealthy countries and why there are poorer countries, and the things that we might do to close the gap. We look at the role of the UK in the 21st century, so whether we're still a world power. We look at the influence of our culture worldwide, but also how our culture has changed because of worldwide links. And then we look at resource reliance, which asks the question of, can we survive with a growing population? Predictions are that we'll hit 9 billion by 2050. And what we really want to start digging into then is, how do you feed, how do you get the water and supplies that you need for that many people. So 4 very relevant, very interesting topics, and again, it's a 1 hour 15 paper with a mixture of short answer and case study based questions. And then finally, paper 3 or unit 3 is called Geographical Exploration. This paper is the longest one and is the one that tests your ability to weigh up information and then apply it to a setting that you've never studied before. So I've given an example of the sort of thing that the exam board could ask you. They could take you to a coastline that you've never studied. They could provide you with information about sea level rise. They could give you maps or photos and little snippets of information or statements that people have about the coastline, and then maybe a table about the cost of different sea defences. And then they could ask you essentially to highlight, what do you think the issue this area has? Are they at risk of flooding? Are they at risk of erosion? And then they might ask you, using these sources, discuss how you could protect a town like Burnham on Crouch and why it was worth cost. It's an open-ended paper. It's a decision-making one, and we never know what topics they're going to pick. It will usually be a combination. So they might put climate change and coasts together. They could put development and slums together. They might mush either a unit from paper 1 and paper 2 together, or they might choose from within the same unit. They have free choice, and these are one of the exam papers that I think students most enjoy because it's basically the revision for these papers is a bit less intense. This is about making sure you've covered the whole thing and then practicing your ability to read maps, pull apart pictures, analyze cartoons, and be able to describe what graphs are showing. So just to give anyone who's not sure about taking geography a flavour of what your assessments might look like, and just a snapshot of some of the questions that your exam paper might include, I've just included a screenshot of some of the questions that you might be faced with. So as you can see, this is from an end of unit assessment that we've created, but you've got a mixture of tabular data, some short 1-mark answer questions, a short 3-mark answer question asking you to describe a pattern, and then a longer answer 8-mark question which could include SPAG and asks for the use of a case study to describe or explain or to evaluate something using a real place. So hopefully not too much writing, but you can see that geography will require something from you. Whilst we might not ask for answers the same length as history, you can't get away with no writing at all, I'm afraid, in geography. Hopefully it gives you a flavour of the sort of thing you might face. So if you're still not persuaded to take geography GCSE, then it's worth at least knowing what geography can lead on to. And so I thought it was just helpful to share that geography is a topic that forces us to look at issues from a wide angle, and then also requires us to develop a set of skills that seem quite attractive to future employers. This includes the use of fieldwork. There will be fieldwork within geography at least one day out of school, collecting data and then applying it. It's the ability to write reports, prepare maps, and pull apart diagrams, graphical skills. And the sorts of jobs that this can lead on to can be things that are vaguely related to geography. So it might be an environmental consultant or a planning officer, or it could also be things that have very little to do, apparently, with geography as a subject, but really appreciate the skills that you learn from geography about this ability to be evaluative and apply skills like using data sets and pulling them apart and looking for trends, such as potentially a logistics and distribution manager or maybe a market researcher. So these are some of the jobs that have a more direct link into geography. Finally, I just wanted to share a few slides with you guys so that if there's any questions from parents about if I take geography GCSE, what things can we be doing at home to support my child to get the best possible grades? So I thought it was worth sharing the sorts of revision materials that we'd recommend as a school. So these include the OCR, Spec B, CGP books, and workbooks, which are very simple and quite helpful in terms of preparation for what the real exams might look like. I'd be encouraging the use of things like the BBC app and downloading and discussing with your child the news on a weekly basis and seeing where you can apply real life examples into what they're studying at the moment. Um, Potentially, there are revision sites like GCSE Pod or Seneca that are quite helpful and that can tie directly into the exam spec you're doing. Or there's wider reading, and even if it's just discussing terminology used in lesson, or getting a book such as Prisons of Geography, um, these sorts of things would certainly help push our students. And for those looking for eights and nines, going above and beyond what we do in lessons would really help make a difference and stretch to those top grades. Any further questions or things that you just want to find out a little bit more on, please get in touch. Come and find me in school, or parents, if you want to email me, my email address is there on the screen. So hopefully this has given you a little bit of a flavour about what GCSE geography is going to be about. Really looking forward to meeting some of you guys and hopefully getting into some of the topics that are all about how our world is working and where people and places are and why the world runs in the way it does. All right, look forward to seeing you all in your GCSEs. Still luck.